Imagine a genius and an average person starting life at the same point. 20 years later, the average person owns assets, has financial freedom, and controls their time. The genius is still working paycheck to paycheck. That sounds impossible. After all, we're told that intelligence is the key to success. Study hard, get good grades, be smart. But what if intelligence alone isn't enough? What if some of the very traits that make people intelligent are the same traits keeping them broke? Stay until the end, because the final reason is the one most smart people never notice, and it silently destroys wealth for decades. This isn't an attack on intelligent people. Intelligence is a powerful advantage, but money follows behavior, not IQ. And the world is full of highly educated people struggling financially, while less intelligent people quietly build wealth. Let's uncover why. Smart people often want perfect information before acting. They research, compare, analyze, and calculate. Meanwhile, average people start. The result? One gains experience while the other gains theories. Wealth often rewards action under uncertainty, and every day spent waiting is a day compounding in someone else's favor. The overthinker convinces himself he's being responsible, but what he's really doing is outsourcing his future to fear. There's a difference between preparation and paralysis, and most overthinkers never learn where that line is. The market doesn't wait for anyone to feel ready. It rewards the person who showed up. Reading books feels productive. Watching videos feels productive. Taking courses feels productive. But information without implementation changes nothing. The marketplace pays for execution. Knowing how to build a business and actually building one are two completely different things. The person with 10 unread business books and 0 launched products has nothing to show the market. Consuming information releases dopamine. It feels like progress because your brain treats learning and doing as similar experiences. But the bank account knows the difference. At some point, the next step isn't another course, it's action. Many intelligent people build their identity around being right. Starting something new means making mistakes publicly. To protect their image, they avoid opportunities. But every successful entrepreneur has a graveyard of failed attempts they're not ashamed of, they're grateful for. The fear of embarrassment has quietly killed more potential wealth than bad markets ever have. Smart people have more to lose socially, so they self-censor more aggressively. They'd rather look like they're waiting for the right moment than look like someone who tried and failed. But the world rarely remembers your failures. It only notices your results. Smart people sometimes search for complicated answers because simple answers feel too easy. Yet most wealth principles are boring and simple. Spend less than you earn. Invest consistently. Build something people need. The difficulty isn't understanding it. It's doing it without making it complicated first. Intelligent people can turn a 5-step plan into a 50-step framework and call it thoroughness. They add variables, exceptions, and contingencies until the original simplicity is completely buried. Meanwhile, someone else executed the simple version and is already seeing results. Complexity is sometimes a disguise for avoidance. Opportunities rarely arrive with guarantees. The people who win learn to act despite uncertainty. Successful investors don't wait for the perfect market. Successful founders don't wait for the perfect idea. They move, adjust, and improve in motion. Certainty is a luxury that almost never arrives in time to be useful. By the time something feels safe enough to act on, the window has usually narrowed or closed. Risk-tolerant people don't have less fear. They've simply made peace with the fact that discomfort is part of the process. The question was never whether it's risky. The question is whether the cost of inaction is higher. School rewards correct answers. Real life rewards solving valuable problems. These are not always the same thing. A student who memorizes textbooks earns an A. An entrepreneur who solves a painful problem earns a business. School teaches you to follow instructions precisely, but wealth is often built by people who question the instructions entirely. The skills that get you praised in a classroom, compliance, memorization, fitting the rubric, are often the skills that hold you back in a marketplace. Real financial success requires selling, persuading, tolerating failure, and adapting fast. None of those are graded subjects. Many intelligent people spend years trying to impress others instead of creating value for others. Impressing people earns admiration. Creating value earns income. One feels good in the moment, the other builds wealth over time. The approval trap is especially dangerous because it masquerades as ambition. Chasing status feels like working towards success, but status and wealth are not the same destination. Some of the most financially stuck people are also the most socially admired in their circles. They optimized for the wrong metric for years without realizing it. Shifting from "how do I look" to "what problem am I solving" is one of the most profitable mindset changes a person can make. Fear, greed, ego, and envy can overpower logic. Emotional control often matters more than raw intelligence. The smartest investor in the room is useless if panic makes them sell at the bottom, and it happens more often than anyone admits. Emotional decisions are made in seconds and can undo years of rational planning. Intelligence helps you build the plan, but emotions determine whether you actually follow it. Most people don't fail financially because they didn't know what to do. They fail because they felt something in a critical moment and acted on it. Mastering your emotions doesn't require therapy. It requires awareness, systems, and the humility to admit you're not immune. Sometimes people lose money simply because they refuse to admit they are wrong. A bad investment held out of pride becomes a catastrophic loss. The ability to say, "I was wrong, let me adjust," is one of the highest value financial skills in existence. Intelligent people are often the worst at this because their intelligence makes them better at justifying their original position. They'll construct elaborate arguments for why the bad bet is still a good bet, instead of simply cutting the loss. The market doesn't care about your reasoning. It only reflects reality. And sometimes the smartest move is the most humbling one. Wealthy people use systems, content, investments, and businesses to multiply effort. Many smart people only sell their time. Time is capped. Leverage is not. 1 hour of your time can only be sold once, but a product, a system, or a piece of content can work for you indefinitely. Leverage is how one person builds a billion-dollar company while another equally talented person earns a salary. It's not about working harder. It's about building something that works when you're not. A book written once earns royalties for decades. A system built once can serve thousands of customers without your presence. The smartest use of intelligence isn't doing more. It's building things that do it for you. Perfectionism delays launches, projects, businesses, and opportunities. Progress beats perfection. A launched product with flaws can be fixed and improved. A perfect product that never ships changes nothing. Perfectionists often believe they're protecting quality, but what they're really protecting is their ego from the judgment of an imperfect result. Every day a product sits unpublished is a day someone else's imperfect version is gaining customers. The market gives feedback that no amount of internal refinement can replicate. Done and learning will always beat perfect and waiting. Ship it, improve it, repeat. Average people often take more shots. More attempts create more opportunities for success. A person who tries 10 businesses and fails 9 has still beaten the person who spent a decade preparing to launch their first one. Volume of attempts is one of the most underrated wealth strategies. Average people don't overthink the odds. They just try, fail cheaply, and try again. Each failure carries a lesson that no course teaches. And because they're not protecting a reputation of being smart, the failure costs them less emotionally. Over time, the person who takes more swings simply has more chances to connect. Small actions repeated for years create extraordinary results. Most people underestimate compounding. $10 invested daily sounds insignificant. Over 30 years at average market returns, it quietly becomes hundreds of thousands. Compounding doesn't just apply to money. It applies to skills, relationships, and reputation. A person who improves 1% every day is 37 times better by the end of the year. The tragedy is that most people abandon the process before the curve bends upward. The results feel invisible for so long that quitting seems logical. But the people who stay consistent long enough eventually reach a point where momentum does the work for them. One friend spent years preparing. The other started immediately. 10 years later, preparation could not compete with experience. The one who started had failed, learned, pivoted, and grown. The one still preparing had only a more sophisticated plan for something he'd never done. The preparer knew more facts. The doer knew more truths. Facts come from studying. Truths come from doing. The market taught the doer things that no book could have anticipated. And by the time the preparer finally felt ready, the doer had already built the experience, the network, and the instincts that only come from years of real attempts. Action plus consistency plus patience plus adaptability. Intelligence helps, but these factors create wealth. The formula isn't complicated. The execution is what separates those who understand it from those who live it. Action without consistency produces bursts of progress that fade. Consistency without patience produces burnout before results arrive. Patience without adaptability produces stubbornness that ignores what the market is actually telling you. All four have to work together. Intelligence can accelerate the process, but it cannot replace it. The people who win financially aren't always the smartest. They're the ones who kept all four running simultaneously, long enough for the results to become undeniable. If you're intelligent, use it as a tool, not as a substitute for action. The goal isn't to know more than everyone else. The goal is to execute more consistently than everyone else. Because success rarely belongs to the smartest person in the room. It belongs to the person who starts, learns, adapts, and refuses to quit. So ask yourself, what opportunity are you overthinking right now? What action have you delayed because you wanted certainty? And what would happen if you started today? That answer may change your financial future forever. If you enjoyed this video, subscribe for more life lessons, psychology, and success stories. And remember, knowledge can change your mind. Action can change your life.